Well, good morning to you. It is the last day of this week where Nikki won't be here. But you're here and I'm here, and thank you for joining me on the Nikki Medoro show today. A lot going on, a lot of breaking news this morning, as a matter of fact. So I do actually want to get right to it because there's a lot to tell you. First of all, I don't know if you heard about this already, but the House is approving a bill that could lead to the forced sale or a nationwide ban on TikTok. We've known that this was coming for a while, right? We've known that there was a problem with TikTok and its connection to the Chinese government and that it could be spying on us, right? They could be spying on us. Well, this bill requires TikTok's parent company, Chinese owned tech company ByteDance, to sell the social media app within 180 days or see it banned from U.S. app stores. Lawmakers are concerned the Chinese government can access the personal data of millions of Americans. Those opposed to the bill say it imposes limits on free speech. President Biden has said he would sign this bill if it clears Congress. The bill faces an uncertain path in the Senate, as Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has yet to say whether or not he's going to be putting this one to a vote. TikTok has an average of more than 100 million American users per month. That's a big deal. A lot of people are looking at TikTok. I think even if you don't have the TikTok app, sometimes you click on a video and it happens to be TikTok and TikTok pops up. So I think a lot of us have been to TikTok or used TikTok without really meaning to do it. And I don't know how I feel about the United States telling a foreign company what it, I guess, what it can and can't do. I don't know. Or whether, we shouldn't be trusted to use it. If it's really spying on us or collecting data on American people, and that's somehow nefarious and we can show it, then it makes sense. But I don't know. Something else that happened today, and we'll talk about it because I want to hear what you have to say about that. In Georgia, a judge is dismissing some charges against former President Trump in that Georgia election interference case. You remember the one. I just need you to find me 11,780 votes, that case. The one that seems to me like such a slam dunk, cut and dried, you know. The judge tossed out counts that accused Trump and other defendants of solicitation of violation of an oath by a public officer. The judge will soon decide if the DA, Fani Willis, for Fulton County, will remain on Trump's case or not. Earlier this month, he heard arguments about the possible conflict of interest charges involving DA Fani Willis and her former boyfriend, who is, of course, the lead prosecutor in the case. So he's still facing charges there. But the solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, those have been tossed. Should they have been? Why were they tossed? What's the reasoning there? We'll look into it. I don't know. Got my blanket here. I'm getting all cozy. And then, of course, as I noticed in the chat, I think it was Eric who said the quote, if you do the same thing, if you do what you've always done, he said it more eloquently, if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten, right? Or insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Here we go again. It's a rematch. We've got a President Biden and former President Trump both locking in their party nominations yesterday. And recent polls are showing both of them in a dead heat for this race. And I just, it's, this is thought to be the longest campaign ever. And here we go again. I mean, I heard yesterday, I was reading this article with Laura Trump, who now is the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. And she says that age-old, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago, right? And I just don't think that argument works, because where were we 4 years ago? We were in bad shape 4 years ago. 4 years ago, we were bleaching our groceries at the front door. 4 years ago, we were afraid that we were all going to die. We didn't know what COVID was. Some people said, oh, it's like the flu. Some people said, no. 4 years ago, there were trucks being used as morgues parked outside of hospitals. Were we better off 4 years ago? We're better off now. 4 years ago, we had a president who didn't really take it seriously, who put business over our health. So I don't necessarily think that we were better off with Donald Trump in office. I can tell you my life wasn't better. Was your life better? I didn't feel safer. As a matter of fact, I felt scared with our foreign policy stance around the world and embarrassed and nervous that this is the guy that had access to the nuclear codes. So 4 years ago wasn't better off for me. Maybe you could make the argument that I paid less at the grocery store 4 years ago. I wasn't paying less for gas. No. So, I'm going to sneeze. I'm sorry, you guys. Ooh. Sorry about that. It happens, and I'm by myself, so what are you going to do, right? Back to the story, though. Laura Trump said, people look around. Am I better off now than I was 4 years ago? This is what she said on Fox News. She said you can compare very easily how much better your life was with Donald Trump in office and how much worse you are now that Joe Biden is in office. No. I completely disagree with her. I mean, factually, I think she's incorrect. You can't make that argument. The argument does not hold water this time around. No. Yeah, it was 4 years ago this week that the threat of the coronavirus came into view into the United States. The World Health Organization just declared it a pandemic. Some states had just started to limit large gatherings. And 4 years ago was when Tom Hanks, remember he got COVID and he had to be hospitalized. I think it was in Australia. So I don't think so. No. Mm-mm. I'll go to the chat to see what you have to say. Do you think you were better off 4 years ago? Because I don't think so. Lars Stump is a stooge. Yeah, probably, right? Yeah. Who are you going to believe? Me or your own stupid eyes? Yeah, right? I mean, pardon me. Yes, it's true. Oh, man. Sandy says Republicans want to pretend that inflation is Biden's fault, even though it's a worldwide issue, and that their reasoning when they say we are worse off now than we were under Trump. Yeah. It's all the economy, which, by the way, is getting better and better and better. Susie Q making probably the point of the day. 4 years ago, we had 1 million plus more people alive in the United States. That's right. Yeah. She's talking about herself. She no longer has access to the White House and the presidential perks. Right. Mm-hmm. Brian with a good point as well. We don't have a potential dictator, insane, horrible, racist monster as our chief. That has to mean we're better off than we were 4 years ago, right? Yeah. Better with a Biden presidency. Trump president was the worst time of my life. Why, Mindy? Is it just because you were scared, kind of like I was? Why was it the worst time? I mean, because, you still have your life, right? You still have the things you do every day. You still have your family. You still have bills to pay. You still have maybe a job. You still have all of these things. How did his being in charge affect you so much that it was the worst time of your life? I think for me, it just brought this kind of veil of uncertainty. Things I never had to question before I started to question. What's our place in the world? Is America doing the right thing when it comes to other countries? And there are things I thought about. I would say COVID was the thing that affected all of our daily lives every single day. Sandy agrees with Mindy. She says, I hated the feeling of chaos under Trump. Every morning I woke up worrying about what the next crazy thing he tweeted during the night. Yeah, that's true. Every day, walked into the newsroom, never knew what was going to happen, what was going to come out of his mouth or his fingertips next. Because we were getting an inkling of just how hideous he is. Ricky says, I feel as though I was well insulated then. My introverted lifestyle pretty much the same now. But my financial health has improved, so other than losing my friends to the vid, that's a pretty big deal, right? And some of us here in the chat may be suffering long COVID or the effects of it. So maybe you were different 4 years ago. With Trump since 2020, I saw him mishandle every single situation that happened. I wasn't at all surprised when he botched COVID. Yeah. Mindy writing, following up, Trump was a terrible president. He was on television nonstop and policy. He is a racist and more killings and violence in this country with Trump. And to that, I agree. The mere thought that he could be back in office is horrifying. I want to believe in Americans that we know better now, that we have been through this once. And so when it really counts for a presidential election, we will flock out and vote for anybody but Trump, which in this case is President Biden. And I don't think he's done too poorly. So, Phineas writes, what about our mental health and overall health since COVID and what Trump and COVID did to both? I'll give Trump credit for this. He did put money toward the COVID vaccine, right? And fast-tracked it. And I feel like that is what had led us to reopen society. That is what got us out of it. Do I think he mishandled COVID? Absolutely, he did. Do I think people died because of the way he handled it? Yes, I do. But I will give him credit for that one thing. I will. SF Tesla, remember this? Yes. Gavin Newsom spent an hour every day on TV, followed by Trump at the height of the lockdown. I picked up my drinking to a crazy level during COVID. That's why I've quit. Good for you. Yeah. We did have KGO. That's true. Although, and I mean, it's not better for me financially. I no longer have a real paycheck. It's very fluid. I don't know what's going to happen from month to month. But I will say that I like the relationship with the people that are watching this show, listening and viewing both. I'm able to communicate better with you than I was on the radio, right? So, well, I guess on the radio, I reached more people. So I guess you could say the communication was wider. But was it really one-on-one like this in real time? There was a text line, but it wasn't the same as this back and forth conversation that we have every day. And that, I don't think I can sweep under the rug, or say that it doesn't matter to me, because it does. And I have gotten to know a lot of you just by what you post every day, what you say every day, that you're showing up here every day. And I have to say that I like that relationship. I've learned that the listeners of this show are kind and funny and bright. I like knowing what you think. I like sharing ideas with you. And that's something that we kind of did on KGO, but not to the extent or degree that we're doing it here. So, pardon me. Still getting over this cold. So I feel like that changed, but I don't know if it's for the better or not. I mean, part of it's for the better and part of it's not for me, because I miss my job on KGO, but I also like the way the show has evolved and the way the relationship that we all have has evolved. I don't even know if that makes sense the way I'm saying it, but hopefully you get my point. Lori says, Project Warp Speed was great. It was also socialism since government was subsidizing private business. It's true, and it worked. Look at that. Phineas blames Trump and Trumpies for losing KGO. That and gambling addiction. Actually, the blame, if you're going to blame a president, should be on President Clinton. because he's the one that allowed multiple media companies to own multiple radio stations in the same market. And that was the downfall of radio in general. So it's been a rough one for us ever since that happened, with layoffs and consolidations. Anyway, I don't mean to get off on a radio tangent, but I can't blame Trump for that one. I have to, put the blame where it's due. But here we go again. Same choices that we had 4 years ago. So if you really do want to take Laura Trump's question to heart, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I think the answer for me is yes. I am. Thank you, Laura. I am better off now than I was 4 years ago. I guess that means it's Biden for me all the way, right? So yesterday, the presidential primaries were in Georgia, Mississippi, and Washington, and they had Republican caucuses in Hawaii. So also voting in the primary wrapped up for all Democrats abroad and all the Democrats living overseas. And both now, President Biden and former President Trump, are called the presumptive nominees. So they're not official nominees until they go to the conventions and are officially nominated and the ceremony takes place, right? President Biden said, today is a call to action. With your voice, your power, your vote come November, we will vote in record numbers and can do it. We have the power to do it. Are you ready? Are you ready to defend democracy, he said. Are you ready to protect our freedom? And are you ready to win this election? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do other than just vote? Because I buy it. I'm buying what he's selling. I do think our democracy is at risk. Do you? And that's America to me. The Constitution is America. It's not the flag. It's not the pie. Not the baseball. Those things are nice. It's the Constitution. That's what makes this country. You ready to fight for it? Are you going to write postcards, make phone calls, stand on a street corner waving a sign? I don't know what to do other than vote. I feel like I need to do something. I feel like I need to help get out the vote. I mean, I think we're talking to each other, but most of us agree, right? I'm not swaying any of you. You're already on my team. Maybe there's someone who's on the fence. Maybe there's someone who, we can exchange ideas and talk to each other about what's right for this country. Trump said yesterday, this was a great day of victory. Last week was something very special, Super Tuesday, but now we have to get back to work because we have the worst president in the history of the country. No, sir, that was you. His name is Joe Biden, sometimes referred to as Crooked Joe Biden, and he must be defeated, Trump said in a video. No, I don't think so. I think the worst president, other than in the Civil War era, and it's a close toss-up, was Trump. It's a danger and a menace. So I just don't want to see us. And you know what it feels like? It feels like he never really left. That because he's so outrageous and because he's still relevant and always in the news, we still have to listen to all the crazy things he says. And now this campaign has been going on and on and on, and everything he's talking about and his face is still front and center. I'd like to be rid of him, honestly. If he is voted down this time, can we just leave him in the dust? Can we leave him in the past and move forward now? I mean, he can't possibly run again, right? I guess he could if he's, in his early 80s. If he's defeated this time, watch, he'll try to run again. Or maybe he's not that healthy and he won't feel up to it. I don't know. Phineas says, feels like we're in a bad nightmare and we can't wake up. Yeah. Oh, Daniel with a great idea. I'm thinking I'll drive up to Pennsylvania from my home in Northern Virginia and help people get to the polls this November. Daniel, it's funny. I always forget because I have There's parts of me that have that radio mindset that I'm broadcasting to the entire Bay Area and maybe much of California because KGO had a flamethrower signal. But I forget that with the internet, you guys are everywhere. You're in Florida, you're in Northern Virginia, you're all over the place. And I love that. What a wonderful thing. Yeah. And I think that's legal, right? You can sign up with groups and help take people. And I don't think you have to tell them who to vote for. You just help get them to the polls. Love it. Let me know if I can help you in that endeavor. I absolutely will. Contribute to gas or whatever you need. It's important to me. You know, a lot of us might not have a lot right now, but when things are so critical and things are so important, I think we find a way to help. So if I can help you, please let me know. You can always reach me, by the way. Kim at theafterparty.live is a great way to email me. Brian with a question, and I don't know the answer. When was the last time we had the same candidates 2 times in a row ever before? We have to ask John Rothman today on the Mark Thompson show. That's a great question. That's a great question. I'll ask him that. See if I can stump John Rothman. Good, good. Love it. A third party vote is a vote for Trump, and I agree. Because you had RFK Jr., right? Sliding in yesterday saying, here's my short list of vice presidential candidates, making big news that football player Aaron Rodgers is on his list. These are two, I don't know if I want to say anti-vaxxers, but people who are very sketchy on the vaccine question, which to me is not a question, right? It's the reason society is reopened, is to have that vaccine. Set aside that they're nuts, both of them. But vote for that party, and you're trickling votes off of President Biden. Every vote should go to President Biden. Put every vote to the person who could win. And I'm sorry, I know we want choices. I know a lot of people would argue, you know, if we do that, we're saying we don't have choice. We buy into the two-party system. Well, that's the system we've got. And if we don't buy into it, it's like just handing it back over to Trump again. And who wants that? There are people, but it's not me, and I don't think it's you. So, no thanks. Not looking for that at all. Oh, you guys think it's maybe Nixon and Kennedy? I don't know. Next time, says Mindy, let's find a younger man or woman to be our president. How about 38 years old? Indeed. SF Tesla says Trump wants no presidential library to remember him by. Why? He needs to store secret documents. The public can't go there. You know how that goes. Daniel writing, we might encourage Californians to help Arizona and Idaho voters to also get to the polls. Yes, the last time Trump ran, I had this group of mom friends. We got together, I want to say 5 or 6 times, and we wrote postcards to swing states. It was all organized through a voting group. And I like to think that my postcard arrived in the mail and made a difference. Although if I had received a postcard that was, I don't know, telling me to vote for Trump or trying to sway my vote, I probably would have read it, laughed, and thrown it out. So I don't know how much difference it meant. But when I was sitting there writing those postcards, I felt like I was doing something, right? But yeah, that might actually be a good idea. Helping in Arizona, helping in Idaho, helping people get to the polls. Daniel, I like that you're being proactive and thinking about stuff like this. It's excellent. You know the show is crowdfunded, and I really, really want to thank Marilyn for popping up with a $5 super sticker this morning. Really cool. I can't even tell you how much I appreciate it. Louise Robinson throwing down $10. I thought 2016 was a nightmare, and now it's coming back again, she writes. I hope we are smarter and vote for Joe Biden. Save us from another Trump nightmare. Hear, hear, Louise, but I think we have to do more, as Daniel is saying, than say it. I think we've got to act this time. And I think it means conversations with people that are on the fence. You know those people that say, I just don't vote. I'm just not political. What? You mean you don't care about everything, single thing that affects your life? Okay. I think we have to have those conversations, Louise. I think we have to do what Daniel's saying. And if we live close enough to Arizona, Idaho, what have you, maybe take some days off and drive to those states and help out. Find a way to help out. Organize it ahead of time. Maybe it's writing postcards. Maybe it's doing working at a phone bank and making calls. It's something. Here in California, these votes are going to Biden. So we need to target the swing states. We need to start mobilizing and organizing. We need to take this seriously. Because remember, I remember, and I'll blame myself for this. I didn't do that when Hillary Clinton was running. I assumed, who could possibly vote for Trump? The choice is already very clear. I don't even care if people don't like Hillary Clinton. Look at the alternative. I was ready to celebrate. And I can remember being shell shocked, dumbfounded, and actually depressed. I don't really get depressed very often. And there you go. That was like knock me on my rear end kind of situation. People hate women that much that he was the better alternative? Okay, that's how it felt. So, yes, it was a nightmare, Louise, and what are we going to do, right? What are we going to do? Is it just donating to the Biden campaign? I mean, that's not little. If we do that, that helps. That's more advertisements in swing states where it matters. I'm down with that. But I think we need to make something happen. We need to take action other than just voting this time. Because I think it's really serious. That's what shows that we love America. How far are we willing to go out of our comfort zone? Are we willing to drive to another state and help? Are we willing to make those phone calls, which can be uncomfortable, right? Are we willing to donate when we maybe aren't used to donating? All these things. Anyway, thank you, Louise, for the comment and for the $10, and also Marilyn as well. Very appreciated. By the way, you can find us at thenikkimedoroshow.com. The Patreon, the PayPal links are there, and that's a great way to support the show. They take less than YouTube does when you contribute, so it helps. Also, if you could click the thumbs up button, we would appreciate that as well. And I'm sorry I'm a little stuffed up today. I'm telling you, this cold. Yesterday, my daughter stayed home from school. I'm so proud of her, you guys. Oh my gosh. We had this fundraiser for the high school marching band over the weekend, and the different bands within the program played. She was so good and dancing on stage and having fun. And I think when you see your kid find their thing and find joy in it, it kind of lifts your heart. Oh, I'm gonna cry talking about it. It was so cool to see her having so much fun with that. Band wasn't my thing, right? And I kind of make fun of her that she picked the nerdiest thing ever. But it's so good for her, and she's having so much fun with it, so I'm just really happy about it. The question is, Brian writes, did Nixon run against the same Democrat more than once? I don't know. I have to look it up. I have to ask John Rothman. We'll ask him. I would call him and make him come on the show with me right now to answer these questions, but today is a John Rothman Day on the Mark Thompson Show. So John Rothman will be on the Mark Thompson Show, and I'll see if I can't slide these questions to him. Spencer, talking about women, have been leaders in all kinds of other countries. Don't know why not here. Pardon me, I have to cough. Thank you. Muted. I appreciate it. Um, Anyway, love your bus comment. That's pretty funny. Luis, I'm donating to this here cause. Thank you for sharing your stories. Luis, thank you for always coming every day and being here for us. And your contributions are really, really important. Sorry I was muted, you guys. I'm really bad at the mute button. Even on KGO, I was bad at the mute button. But Luis, thank you very much. Really nice. I appreciate it. Um, I know, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I did it. Oh, Hedge, welcome aboard. Yesterday was my first time listening to the Mark Thompson show, and now I'm here. Well, welcome. The show usually has two of us. The conversation usually, I would say, flows a little better. Um, and so please come back tomorrow. Nikki will be back tomorrow. I would appreciate it. Yeah, I know I was muted. I'm sorry. Muted, muted, muted. It's not my earbuds went out. No, it's just me. Hi, welcome, idiot over here. Thank you. Yes. Oh gosh. Um, it was a great point that you guys couldn't hear, as a matter of fact. That's the way it goes. Did you hear this? That one of the longtime aides to Alexei Navalny was attacked with a hammer outside of his house. Now, if you're going to make the point or try to say that Navalny died in prison and it wasn't the fault of the Russian government, or he was sick, or he was attacked, or whatever happened to him in prison, right? Everyone already thinks that Putin was behind it. Now, one of his longtime aides attacked with a hammer outside of his home in Lithuania. I mean, no. He has to leave the people alone. His name is Leonid Volkov. He worked as Navalny's top advisor, helped run his campaign against Putin, and he's attacked with a hammer outside of his house. He's left bloodied by this incident, alive though, but he is in Lithuania because he doesn't feel safe in Russia. He's on self-imposed exile for at least 4 years. He is his a court in Moscow had ordered his arrest in 2021 on charges officials condemned as politically motivated prosecution. So here's another guy, right, who's now the next target. Apparently, someone broke a car window, sprayed tear gas in his eyes, and then started hitting him with a hammer. Scary. He's now back at home. Well, actually, he's now in the hospital. Pretty scary situation. They mean business in Russia, I guess. Maybe that's the message they're trying to send. Yikes. We have been watching Prop 1. I have been watching Prop 1 here in California. This is the one that Gavin Newsom said he needed in order to affect homelessness and get people into mental health treatment, right? This is the one I also understand, and Luis, correct me if I'm wrong, would take money away from counties as far as mental health needs and put a question mark on funding. Am I still muted? I don't think I'm muted anymore. You guys should be able to hear me now. Yeah, okay. And so it was too close to call. Election night and the days after, it was 54 and 50 against. Still too close to call. There are still a lot of votes left to be counted in some counties. And Governor Gavin Newsom says he's confident. He said, I think it's going to win overwhelmingly. Even the opposition campaign to Prop 1 yesterday said it's almost certainly going to pass. They said, we almost took down the bear, but it looks like we will fall short. That's what Californians against Prop 1 said in a statement. Newsom campaign says they're very optimistic about this outcome, but that there are still ballots to be tallied. More than 1.5 million ballots still yet to be counted around the state. And again, it's so close. It could be one of the lowest turnouts in state history. We have 7.5 million votes in all. So I don't know. I voted no on Prop 1. How did you vote? Oh, Phineas says it's 25,000 votes short. Yeah, Luis, who I think works in mental health services, says you are correct. As much as 30% budget cuts to the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health. So, I mean, it would have been nice if we were adding on to mental health needs, if we were giving caregivers more options, more beds for people, weren't kind of tying their hands behind their back and being able to help the people that need the help. That would have been one thing. But taking money away from the people that are helping, I don't, I couldn't get behind it. So, it looks like it's going to pass, Luis. I don't know. SJ Lola voted no. Not enough info coming out of Sacramento. It shifts the existing money from counties to the state. Read more bureaucracy. Calvin writing, they believe Prop 1 was so close because low voter turnout and more conservatives voted than liberal voters. It's, yeah, it's disappointing. Nancy voted no because of the shifting of funds from the counties to the state, right? Gordon voted yes on that. Okay. I mean, one of the things I like about Governor Gavin Newsom is that he's trying new things to help with the homeless issue. Tried to do it in San Francisco with Care Not Cash, and I don't necessarily think that worked, right? I mean, look at the homeless situation in San Francisco. If it had worked, it wouldn't be like this. And now we have the care courts, and he says this is a critical piece of his plan. So, Phineas voted no on it as well. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Eric writes, sorry, I'm clicking around. Eric says, I had a Trumper tell me they were voting no on one, so I had to vote yes out of spite. That's funny. Randy voted no on Prop 1 because it seemed to be just throwing more money at the homeless situation. And where's the money going? Yeah. On this, we agree. And I don't mind throwing money at it as long as the money's going to a place that actually works and helps and goes toward a solution. So if this Prop 1 passes, I guess I'm hopeful that the people that are helping will be in a better situation to help and not a worse situation to help, if that makes sense. Phineas, Newsom should have taken the profits from PG&E to pay for Prop 1. Then I would have voted yes. Then we all would have voted yes. I mean, right? Because then it feels like your money's actually doing something. Right. Mm-hmm. Where's the money going now? Well, I think money that I mean, if you're asking, if it's a real question, in your all caps, I think, Robert, the money is going to our counties, right? And to social workers can help people that need mental health assistance, and there are county programs. And as Luis wrote, that money is going to be scaled back dramatically. Phineas writes, follow the money, Kim. The money is coming from the same purse that the bullet train came from, us. Yeah. Why are you yelling? This is what I wonder. So Prop 1 looks like it will pass. In San Diego, a federal judge struck down a California law limiting high-frequency gun purchases. So state lawmakers say limiting gun purchases to one every 30 days, which doesn't seem that much, honestly. You buy a gun once a month. You could still collect quite a collection there. Limiting a gun purchases to once every 30 days deters trafficking and straw purchases. But a judge says there is no historical precedent for that. And so he has struck down this California law limiting high-frequency gun purchases. No historical precedent for such a ban. Well, in history, did we have people shooting up high schools, malls, libraries, movie theaters, nightclubs, and on and on? No. I would argue we have a precedent that we're setting right now that we need some help. No historical precedent for a ban. Well, gee, I guess since we never did it back then, we can't make laws now to help ourselves and, I don't know, maybe allow our children to live? Wouldn't that be nice? Don't agree, clearly. In Nevada, here in the Bay Area, there was an attack at a mosque. And it's Ramadan, by the way. I put out a couple guest requests, and people were not able to come because of Ramadan. Um, and so I knew that Ramadan was happening. But this attack at a mosque in Nevada, pretty disturbing. This man was assaulted. Nevada police are now saying it is not the hate crime that they were originally thinking it might be. This happened Monday night. A man walking by the Islamic Center of North Marin said he was invited in by members of the congregation, maybe to learn about Ramadan, about what they were doing in there, because he was kind of walking back and forth outside. At one point, they say one of our congregation members noticed the man had a firearm in his bag. And because of things that they've seen happen in the world, that was concerning. So they thought something might happen. One of the members of the mosque tried to grab the bag with the firearm inside, and that's when the suspect got violent, assaulting one of the members, punching him, pepper spraying him as well, and then the man fled. San Rafael police caught him a few hours later. He's a 48-year-old man. He said he was the one involved in a misunderstanding, is what he called it, at the Nevada mosque. They say they searched his house, turned up evidence linking him to a crime, although they didn't find that gun. They don't think it was a hate crime. There were no threats. He didn't ever pull the gun on them. They say there was really no evidence that it was premeditated or a targeted attack of any kind. So the nice thing about this is people have heard that what happened, and they're bringing flowers to the mosque. People that aren't Muslim, that don't celebrate Ramadan, are showing support to this mosque and what happened there. So one of the people in the mosque telling NBC Bay Area, "We have attention here in our community already. When that incident occurred, first we were scared. Fortunately, no one was seriously harmed." This person has a prior felony conviction, the one that was arrested, and is now being held on a $250,000 bond, but not a hate crime. So, it's interesting. I think a lot of people know it's Ramadan, but I don't know if it's not necessarily, we don't make a, big deal out of it or publicize it. And maybe it's because we don't want things like this to happen. Like, just let it be a quiet celebration. Let people have their peace. It just seems like if we talk about it, sometimes the crazies come out of the woodwork. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes that's how it feels. Let's get a little happy for a moment. Why don't we? Lawmakers want to help California be happy. I can get behind that. The story's out of Cal Matters. Former Assembly Speaker Anthony Rendon says he puts his own happiness, if he were to rate it, on a scale of 2 out of 10. He said, ask him again after November when his term ends, he said. But he's being forced to hand over his leadership post. That was last summer. And he apparently is now the chairperson instead of the Select Committee on Happiness and Public Policy Outcomes. Because, he said, lawmakers don't take happiness seriously. They had their first meeting. They said the word happy a lot, I guess. They want to figure out how happy Californians are and what could make us happier. They say the keys to happiness are nurturing strong interpersonal and communal relationships. Look, we're doing that here. Leading a life that includes meaning, play or novelty, a sense of gratitude. I think that's really important. Economic stability leads to happiness as well. Not necessarily being rich, but just being stable, like having enough to exist, right? A connection to the environment. Because, when you go get out there and walk on the beach or in the forest, your spirits are lifted, right? And resilience. The Public Policy Institute of California did a survey in 2023. They found 58% of California adults said they were pretty happy. 58% of us. 16% very happy. And 26% not too happy at all. But with the number of not too happy Californians growing, they say legislators should pay attention to younger adults and lower income residents who were the ones that were less happy than the others. Overall, in the ranking of all the states, California comes in 7th when you look at the happiest U.S. state. And 3 of our cities here in California are in the top 5 happiness. Fremont, we know, tops that list. A lot of people in Fremont are very, very happy. So how do we get to a place in California where we are happier? Rendon said, not all ways to boost happiness include a government directive. Like, we're happy because the government says, time for you to be happy. No. But maybe a strong social safety net, that could work. The hearing talked a lot about happy people living longer, being healthier, more successful at work, more likely to volunteer in their communities. Unhappy people have a ripple effect on society, apparently, with effects on mental health, depression, even crime. One assembly member made the point, you don't have kids walking into schools with guns to shoot people if they're happy. Do you think we need a happiness panel, a happiness committee? Wait, it's the Select Committee on Happiness and Public Policy Outcomes. Do we need that? I mean, maybe they're calling it that, but I guess the whole point of having people represent us in government is so they will do the things that make our lives better and in turn make us happier, right? Oh, yeah. You could type however you feel, and I could also ban you. How about that? Sayonara, sucker, as we say. Uh-huh. You can type however you want, and I can ban whoever I want. And I hate to do it because I do want to welcome everyone here, but I also want it to be a place of peace and tranquility where you can spend your morning talking to each other. And so, yeah, not cool, you know? Right. And if you're not listening to each other and someone asks you please not to type in all caps, at least be cool about it. I mean, thank you for being here, Robert, but no. So you can listen now, but you can't type. And I hope I wasn't too hasty on that decision. You guys, please tell me if I should not do that banning. Yes, and that's what just happened. Perhaps I took that too quickly, that move too quickly, and didn't yellow card you first, Robert. Okay. So, do you feel like we need a happiness committee? Because I think it's kind of a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Yes, keep our ecosystem of dialogue positive. That's my whole point and effort. Yeah. It is yelling when you do that. So I have to say, that's not cool. Okay, moving forward. Golden Gate Park, nominated for the best city park in the United States. I do love some Golden Gate Park. There's a USA Today's contest, Best City Park. It's part of a 10 best series for travel and lifestyle. And they nominated 20 city parks around the country, and Golden Gate Park is one of them that will be nominated. They are deciding the winner by a public vote, which is open through April. You can check, there's an article on Cron 4 about this, and they have the link there. Maybe I can post it in the chat as well. Yeah, I can. You can vote here if you are so inclined to do that. And maybe you don't like Golden Gate Park. Maybe you want to vote for a different park. Maybe you live by a different park, but that's the link to vote. The park was originally created, Golden Gate Park, on the sand dunes. That was back in 1870. Uh, it hosted the first World Fair west of the Mississippi River in 1894. Apparently, as of last night, Ala Moana Regional Park in Hawaii was leading the way. Golden Gate Park was in sixth place, and it was the only park in California to be nominated. Last year, in this big Best Park contest, Forest Park in St. Louis won the contest. So, if you like Golden Gate Park, and I do, vote for Golden Gate Park. Let's have some Bay Area pride. Now, I know there's some homeless people living in the park, but there's also the beautiful botanical gardens, right? There is the Buffalo Paddock. There's Stowe. Do we still call it Stowe Lake? We'll call it something else now, I think. There's the really cool dog park in Golden Gate Park. And there's meadows and fields and places to recreate and streets that you can ride your bike on and skate down. I'm a fan of it. So let's vote for that. Let's do a little bit of news, why don't we? And then we'll get back into it because I have a story out of Hollywood where actress Lilly Allen says having kids ruined her career. So let's talk about that in just a moment. But first, we'll take a look at what's going on in the world and in California as well with this.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Yeah, lawmakers are one step closer now to banning TikTok, possibly. The House has approved a bill that could lead to the forced sale or nationwide ban of this social media app. It would require TikTok's parent company, Chinese-owned tech giant ByteDance, to sell the app within 180 days or see it banned from U.S. app stores. Lawmakers are concerned the Chinese government can access the personal data of millions of Americans. Some charges against former President Trump dropped in the Georgia election interference case. Not all of them, but some of them. A judge tossing out counts that accuse Trump and other defendants of solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer. The judge also set to soon decide if the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, will remain on Trump's case. Hunter Biden will not testify in a public hearing before Congress in the impeachment inquiry of his father. His attorneys declined the House Oversight Committee chairperson's invitation to testify at a March 20th hearing, claiming the date was set with no prior communication, and it comes just one day before President Biden is set to make a court appearance in California in connection with the charges by Hunter Biden is set to make a court appearance in California in connection with charges of failure to pay taxes. So the president's son testified behind closed doors late last month and will not be doing that again this month. The attorneys for a Boeing whistleblower found dead over the weekend are now speaking out. This is such a bizarre case. 62-year-old John Barnett was found dead outside of a South Carolina hotel. The coroner's office said Barnett's death was the result of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Barnett's attorneys are calling on Charleston police to investigate this further. They don't necessarily believe it. In a statement, they said they didn't see any indication that Barnett would take his own life. So they want this to be investigated further. Author and columnist Mitch Albom and his wife are among 10 people who have been rescued from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The group from Michigan was at Albom's Have Faith Haiti orphanage, and their rescue was coordinated partly by Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Albom is the author of acclaimed works like Tuesdays with Maury. Grimy and exhausted, but safe now is what they're saying. They're worried for everyone who remains stuck in Haiti after the government there folded. So, pretty scary. In Hollywood news, Dr. Dre is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The hip-hop icon's star will sit next to Snoop Dogg's star, and he will be honored in Los Angeles on March 19th. So that's exciting for Dr. Dre. Do you ever feel like Sometimes people get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and you're like, really? Because it seemed to me that should have happened a long time ago. I think Lenny Kravitz is also getting one. Today in San Francisco, while at SFO, protesters are demonstrating, calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. There are more than 300 protesters at San Francisco International Airport. They are inside and outside of the airport. The terminals do remain open. Passengers are being rerouted around the protesters, and airport officials suggest travelers should be dropped off at the Kiss and Tell lot and then take the air train into the airport. Affects a lot of people when that happens. I'm not saying people shouldn't protest and shouldn't make their voices heard, but if you're headed to the airport, right, you're in a real hurry. Orange County is leading Southern California in cancer rates among 18 to 49-year-old residents. According to a report released yesterday from Orange County's Leonard Foundation Cancer Center, also using data from the National Cancer Institute. This report partly cites a rise in colorectal and breast cancers. Last year, 18% of the cancer patients treated at City of Hope, Orange County, were younger than the age of 50. Let's say that again. 18% of cancer patients treated were younger than the age of 50 at the City of Hope. The county's cancer diagnosis rate is still lower, though, than the national average. Scary. That's really scary. It seems like more and more young people are getting sick. Oh. Some business news now. Wells Fargo is slashing its price target for Tesla. The San Francisco-based bank says the EV maker's stock is underweight with a price target of $125. Tesla was trading in the low 200s per share in late February. Nvidia, though, the target price has soared to $1,200, moving the price higher again. Cantor Fitzgerald moving its target from $900 to $1,200, reiterating its overweight status. The firm says Nvidia represents a 37% upside. Pretty crazy. Phantom Audio calling it quits. That's it. The South San Francisco startup launched 7 years ago, trying to develop a platform that allows a driver to operate a driverless car remotely right from a computer desk. The company says it was just unable to secure funding, and that's the way it goes. In San Francisco, a generative AI startup trying to clone human voices and faces has just secured funding. San Francisco-based Tavis raised $18 million to create what it calls digital replicas. Soon, it won't be me. It'll be fake me. The technology would be built into an app that can generate a clone from any video. Are we not scared about that? Do we really want to fund that? Because I don't know if I really want to fund that. No, thank you. As we mentioned yesterday, Scott Peterson is back in court, this convicted killer asking for a new trial. Scott Peterson appeared in a San Mateo County courtroom yesterday via teleconference. The Los Angeles Innocence Project has taken his case. They want a new trial. Peterson serving time for killing his pregnant wife Lacey in 2002 and dumping her body in the San Francisco Bay. The couple lived in Modesto. The case, of course, made national headlines. The court hearing was mostly procedural, though, as they have a lot of evidence that now has to be sifted through to determine if Peterson does indeed deserve a new trial. So, we'll see how that goes. There is a nursing home in Northern California facing a lawsuit claiming it is the site of sexual assaults and numerous counts of neglect. The lawsuit claims a 79-year-old resident at Windsor Healthcare Center in Oakland was assaulted there multiple times. How awful. The woman's son alleges workers committed the crimes and higher-ups at the facility swept them right under the rug. The nursing home is not commenting on this lawsuit. A new report finds an increase of California Highway Patrol officers in the Bay Area having an impact. So we have more officers and it's making a dent. Governor Gavin Newsom's office says sting operations are bringing down more and more suspected car thieves. In the last month alone, statistics have shown more CHP officers in and around Oakland, leading to the arrests of 168 people and the recovery of 360 stolen vehicles. Officials also say cooperation between local law enforcement agencies is leading to more criminal arrests as well. Thank goodness. And this is the story I was also mentioning to you before. Singer Lenny Kravitz, the latest member of the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Should he not have already had a star? Seems like it. The musician and actor on hand as a star was unveiled in Los Angeles yesterday. Kravitz telling the crowd he spent many a day walking up and down Hollywood Boulevard, seeing the names of his idols, but he never dreamed his name would be right alongside them. He said it's a big year for him. He's a 4-time Grammy winner, recently nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So he's nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, finally gets a star on the Walk of Fame. Things are looking up for Lenny Kravitz. Well done. And if you heard about this one, there's a lawsuit against Big Tobacco, this one out of San Diego. It's not for cigarettes or vaping, though. This suit is being brought against Philip Morris for the product Zyn, Z-Y-N. It's a popular nicotine product coming from a flavored pouch. The class action lawsuit claims this product is marketed toward young people. Of course it is. The firm says the product is a threat to our health. And this case, though, could take years to wind its way through the courts. Also, a major auto safety group says most hands-free driving systems are totally unsafe. Yesterday, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety announced nearly all driving automation systems received poor safety ratings. Out of 14 systems tested, 11 of them received poor ratings. 2 rated marginal. Only 1 was rated as acceptable. None of them received a good or better rating. The International Institute for Highway Safety saying most systems don't include adequate measures to prevent misuse and keep drivers from losing focus on what's happening on the roadway. Unsafe. This report sponsored by you, which means we do rely on you to help us fund the Nikki Medoro Show, which you have stepped up and done repeatedly, many of you. So thank you so much for that. You can find us at thenikkimedoroshow.com. Sorry, stuffed up. thenikkimedoroshow.com. That's where the Patreon and the PayPal links are located. And thank you for all the ways you help us out. And again, thanks to Marilyn, thanks to Louise, and thanks to Luis. Louise and Luis. Thank you both, along with Marilyn. Much appreciated. All right, let's jump back into it here. There's a lot to talk about still. Let's talk about Lilly Allen. She says having kids ruined her career. She, of course, is a British pop singer. She said her kids totally complete her. She's not saying that she wishes she didn't have them. She loves her children, but she's making the point that, you know, you have kids and it does affect your career, what you're trying to do in life. And so I think it begs the question, can women really have it all? Because for so long we've been told that we can, but is it clear that something has to give, right? Here's a picture of Lilly Allen. Let me take that banner off the screen. I'm sorry. There you go. Okay, there's Lilly Allen. And she says, she was asked on a podcast if she had to rethink her career strategy after having children. And she said, I never really have a strategy when it comes to a career. But yeah, she said, my children ruined my career. She said, I mean, I love them and they complete me. But in terms of pop stardom, totally ruined it. And she's kind of joking, but kind of not. She said, it really annoys me when people say you can have it all. Because quite frankly, you cannot. Some people choose their career over their children, and that's their prerogative. She's seen most of her success in the UK. She's had 3 number 1 hits and 15 in the top 40. At 38, she had to step back from her career, or she chose to. to focus on raising her 2 daughters that she shares with her ex-husband. Because her parents, she said, were very absent when she was a child. She thought it was important to do this for her kids. Both her parents were in the entertainment industry as well. She said, I feel like that left some nasty scars that I'm not willing to repeat on my children. I chose stepping back and concentrating on them. And she said, I'm glad I've done that because I think they're pretty well-rounded people. She lives now in New York City with her daughters and her husband, who is one of the stars of Stranger Things. His name is David Harbour. She married him in 2020. But it's interesting to me that people think you can have it all, and sometimes something's got to give, right? When I was driving to San Francisco every day, working for 8.5, 9 hours, and then driving an hour there and an hour home, by the time I would get home, my kids would be in bed, and I missed most of their days. Is that having it all? I don't think so. I mean, some of us don't get the choice, right? Some of us actually have to work. And so, I mean, you have to do what you have to do here in the Bay Area, especially to make ends meet. But something has to give somewhere. You're not going to be able to spend as much time as you want with your kids if you're, commuting and working. It's just the way of things. Hopefully, you have an employer where you can take some time off, volunteer in the classroom here and there, or go on a field trip and have at least something, right? But you can't give 100% to work and to your family and to volunteering. Sometimes it feels like everybody gets more like 75%, right? And you're running on empty at the end. And we make it work. We do what we need to do. But I think she's right. Something's got to give somewhere. Can we have it all? We sure can try. Oh. Mars thinks saying kids ruined her career is vile. Why? Why? If it's true, she says she loves her kids and she's glad she stepped back from her career. Why is the truth vile? I mean, if she hadn't have had children, then she would have been able to give her all to her career. She says she's glad she had kids, and she's glad she stepped back from her career. She made the choice that she wanted to make. And it's great that she had the opportunity to make that choice, right? Because a lot of us don't have the choice. Oh, just don't turn sour. Right. She could do it part-time. When you, I would argue, are at the top of your game, when you have a career where you have to tour and be away from home, where we know kids need stability, right? They need to be going to the same school. They need to be having their friends. They need to be in a place where they can do activities, all these types of things. I don't think you can do a pop star career part-time. I don't know. Lady Beatrice says, people who blame their kids for their regrets should never have been parents. The kids didn't just turn up. It's vile and shameful to say of one's children. I don't think you're taking it in the way in which she intended it. I think it's okay to be honest and say, hey, listen, I chose to have kids and I chose to take a step back from my career and stay home with them. But I'm not going to lie and say that my career didn't take a big hit. In her case, she said it, taking a step back ruined her career. And I think she would probably make the same choice over again. As she talks about how having mostly absent parents scarred her and she didn't want to do the same thing to her kids. I applaud her for putting her kids first and making that choice. Mars says, you can say your career took a pause, but saying ruined is a bad word choice. I don't know. I think it's honest, Just write and record and make videos. I don't think that works when you're a pop star. You're not going to get the same type of response. I don't know. You guys are really upset about that. That's interesting. There are a lot of actresses that have had kids and a great movie career. That's true, but I think that when you have to go, fly off somewhere and make a movie and your kids are school age, there's a lot of actresses that, they won't see their kids for months at a time. Which, if you make a movie and then you come home and you have 8 months off or however long it is, that can work for you. But that 3 months that you're gone, I mean, you're not giving 100% to your family at that point. And I think that's what the point I'm trying to make. You juggle. You juggle everything, right? It's all a precarious balance of your priorities on all of these trays, trying to keep it straight. Mars writing, Angelina Jolie has never said her adopted kids ruined her careers. Different scales from different humans. I would argue also that maybe Angelina Jolie didn't make as many movies as she would have if she didn't have a pack of kids to take care of. Or maybe she has a lot of help too. I don't think you could say that if she was a full-time mother, right, and putting 100% into her kids, that she'd have a lot of time for making movies. And I'm not faulting anyone. Trust me, I'm telling you, I had to work in San Francisco and was gone, sometimes 10 hours a day. It's not easy to feel like you need to be in two places at once. But it does call into question that, we can have it all. We can try to have it all. But I don't think a lot of us succeed at doing everything. At the end of the day, you fell short somewhere. And that's just kind of the way of things. It's normal, the way things are. So, what about the girl's father? How absent is he that he can't step up so she can have a few months of touring? You're right. I didn't see that in the article, but it does look like they're divorced, so I don't know. Heather says having kids would have ruined the life I envisioned for myself, so I never had any in the first place. I wonder if she didn't think it through before having them. She said, Heather, she's not sorry she had them. And she said she didn't want to do what her parents did to her, which is basically not being around. So she made the choice she made. But I think it's still okay to say, look, I made this choice. I wanted this choice, but you really can't have it all. I figured that out, right? And that my career took a big old hit because of it. Lori says, I think it's the word ruined that sounds extra harsh. Think by the time kids can read this, they're already secure in her or they're not. Right. And they know what she means. And she said in that article that on that podcast rather, that she doesn't regret having her kids and doesn't regret being there for them. But that, it did ruin her career. LAX Paint says the choice to have kids may have ruined her career. Wasn't the kids. Furthermore, a lot of us in the chat don't even know who she is. So whose career are we talking about? Maybe we don't know who she is because her kids ruined her career. You see what I'm saying? Randy says having kids is hard work for a lot of years and you never stop being a parent, no matter how old they get. People need to better understand this before they have kids. Yeah. I don't have grown-up kids yet. I have a 10-year-old, just turned 10, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. So hopefully I'll get to, with a little luck, where you are eventually, Randy. Did you hear me knocking on wood over here? KF, people are focusing on the wording of my kids ruined my career. Based on all the other things she said, she meant choosing to have kids ruined or ended my career. Yeah. Brian agreeing there is never justification for making the words, my children ruined my career, available for your children to read. The test of a parent is to be honest without being hurtful. Maybe she's just one of these people who are very blunt, right? Very British and blunt, perhaps. Having it all by yourself is a ridiculous expectation. And Heather likes that she's honest about it. Yeah. I do too. It doesn't bother me. And I think they will know her and realize that she stepped back and was a mom at home and that she's put enough time and effort and love into them that they will know. you know, how mom is, what mom says. She, through her decisions, ruined her career. I'm so annoyed, writes Louise, at the lack of personal responsibility people take. Nick says, we're talking about someone that has a song called F You. Yeah. Sidelined said would be a better word, says Nicole. Maybe, though, and again, as someone else mentioned, we're not pop stars, right? So we don't know the ins and outs of the business. But perhaps when you're on this pop star momentum, if it's derailed, you never really kind of get that back. Maybe she thought she could have been Taylor Swift-like, with this rise to massive fame. And it was derailed because she had to take a step back. And maybe you can't reclaim that or get it back. I don't know. Reminds me of people, says Mars, that got dogs and cats during COVID and returned them to the shelter. I think that's a little harsh. I don't think that's what she's saying at all. Heather says, women get piled on if they ever stray from, oh, the kids are magical blessings trope. It's never received well when they mention the downsides and the realities. I think that's really true. Oh, everything's so wonderful here. My kids are so glorious and wonderful. And they are. I mean, every night their rooms are located on the opposite sides of a hallway. And every night I stop in the middle of the hall and put my hand on one's door on one side and one's door on the other. And thank God that I have them and that they're okay and that they're doing well. I'm so grateful. And I give that gratitude every night, standing in a dark hallway. I'm very thankful. But it doesn't mean that I've been able to do everything perfectly. It doesn't mean that I've been able to be there for them as much as I've wanted to, right? I agree with Heather. Sometimes when you talk about the realities, people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that, because you were working in San Francisco, you missed basketball games, or, you missed being able to take kids to play practice or being able to volunteer or whatever. But these are the realities. And we put our energy toward our priorities. And sometimes, for many of us, that priority has to be work, because you got to keep your house. You got to keep being able to feed your kids. And so something somewhere has to give, right? Sandy says, Heather, all I ever saw was a downside in regards to having kids. It's just not a life that ever appealed to me at all. It's hard for me to relate to women who actually want that life. Boy, Sandy, did I want it. I really wanted it. I really did. So I love that we're able to be so different and still have this conversation. And I love that Lilly Allen was able to want that life too, because, maybe one kid was an accident, but when you have more than one, I think it's on purpose. That she was able to have that life, and she's able to say, listen, you can't have it all, and I figured that out because I want to be there for my kids. So instead of worrying about or being angry at her for saying they ruined her career, why don't we look at her and go, bravo to you for, you're the one, knowing that you're the one that chose to have the kids, to step back to give them what they emotionally needed and that you didn't get as a kid. Luis says, my kids are enhancing my career. I love hearing kid stories and enjoy the Nikki and Kim Two Moms Talking segments. Oh, good. I'm glad that you do. I really appreciate it. Lori says it was indelicate. It should have said something like, I had to make a decision between kids and career and I chose kids. I think that's what she's saying. I guess maybe you're right. It's the harsh way she said it. Yeah. Randy says, hey, Pink has 2 kids. They haven't seemed to ruin her career. Of course, she and her husband seem to have a stable marriage. They've had some rocky times. And she takes her family, her whole little family, on tour with her. I don't know if you've watched documentaries. And so, maybe she's managed to find a way to do it. I don't know, but you're right. It hasn't derailed her career. Good point, Randy. Good point. That That's why postpartum depression is underreported. Moms feel guilty for not immediately having maternal feelings for newborns. It's not all unicorns and rainbows. We like to think it is, though, don't we? Yeah. The connotation was triggering for Mars. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about that. No. We all have come from a different experience, right? And things affect us differently. So, oh, Eric thinks TikTok was listening to him. Maybe. I'm telling you, Eric, I believe your phones listen. I've had some weird stuff happen. Sandy says, it's hard for me to understand how someone can bring a life into the world without thinking it through first. It's such a huge thing, not something to be taken lightly. Yeah. Everybody does it differently. Not everybody does it the way I would do it, Sandy. Right? Ms. Organic says, I didn't particularly want to have kids, but I wasn't opposed to having one. Glad I did, but also glad she's 20 now. Well, do you stop worrying at 20? Or no, is that like prime worry time? Because I've got a 14-year-old and this worrying really is kicked up a notch. Wow, Lori. Lori decided not to have kids at age 11 after something her mom screamed at her. Probably would have decided anyway once I understood about the genetics of mental illness. Definitely needed to stop these genes. Whew. Whatever she yelled at you must have been really rough, Lori, and I'm sorry you went through it. Man. And Kevin said, yeah, she was laughing when she said kids ruined her career. Nothing in life is unicorns and rainbows. It's true. And Deidre says, no, you never stop worrying. Good to know, Deidre. Good to know. Yeah. Oh, goodness. And one more, last comment on this. Susan says she definitely had a bad choice of words. I don't even know who she is, but she shouldn't blame them. It's like marriage not being all rainbows either. Yeah, it's work. It's true. Chris, this will be the last one, I promise. I think people are just too focused on the optics and not the overall message. That's what it seems to me, too. But yeah, I agree with her when she says you can't have it all. That's for sure. Did you hear about this? I guess theaters are close to my heart. And there's a story about this theater company in San Jose. You take Lilly Allen down. That was burglarized just days before a performance. I'm telling you guys, this San Jose theater company is just getting ready for their opening night, and they're burglarized over the weekend. They're prepping for this new show in the next week, and early Sunday morning, City Lights Theater Company in San Jose gets hit. They can see a couple of people on surveillance video that were lurking around the building early Sunday morning. And they say they feel really, really violated. They were just getting ready for their opening night. They say it's a slap in the face to have someone come into their theater and take things that don't belong to them. Now they've got to replace everything. It costs a lot of money. What was taken? Props for the production, cell phones, iPads, other costly items. They said it's been a struggle for them to bounce back after the pandemic. And that's really the case with a lot of these theater companies, right? They're fighting to stay in business. They said it's been 4 years tomorrow since the pandemic shut us down, and we're still working to recover audiences, our patron base, our donors, and now they get hit. The show must go on. And so City Lights Theater Company is preparing for their opening night of King Liz on March 21st. The play is about a tenacious female sports agent trying to reach the top of a male-dominated industry. They're in their 41st season of bringing community theater to San Jose. They are hoping people will hear about this and support City Lights Theater, and any theater company you belong to, any theater company in your community, that they said it's a challenging time for arts organizations and that they all need support. They do have an alarm system, by the way. No one was hurt. They've got a fundraiser planned for next month. So if you're in the South Bay, support City Lights Theater Company. I feel really bad. Pardon me for the cough. Okay. Am I muted? No, I'm not muted this time. Good. Kind of a sad situation, though. I hate to see them ripped off. Let's talk about Delta 8. Have you heard about Delta 8? Kids are doing Delta 8. And I guess it's legal. I don't necessarily want this to be legal. I don't want kids to have access to this. Let me show you a picture and then tell you a little bit about Delta 8. Here's what it looks like. Here's how it comes in these weird little canister things like this. All right? Delta 8 is a cannabis compound, pardon me, sometimes marketed as light THC or a legal alternative to weed. It's being found now that high school seniors' use of Delta 8 is skyrocketing. Delta 8 THC is one of more than 100 chemical compounds found in the cannabis sativa plant. It's an isomer or chemical cousin of sorts to Delta 9 THC. That's the molecule that creates a high when someone ingests cannabis. So Delta 9 is the most abundant form of THC in weed and is responsible for most of the psychoactive effects. Delta 8, it acts on the brain the same way, but is less potent, and it has fewer legal restrictions. And unlike weed, there are no age restrictions for buying Delta 8 in most states where the product is legal. But based on findings published in the journal JAMA, the authors say the number of teens reported using Delta 8 may be a potential public health concern, because we know the effect that weed has on developing brains, and it's not pretty. The doctors say we hadn't known prior to this study the extent these products are reaching teens. That's a concern, they say, because they weren't being comprehensively regulated, right? Delta 8 comes in a lot of forms that could appeal to kids. Gummies, chocolate cookies, vaping cartridges, even sodas, breakfast cereals. Delta 8 is also very accessible because it's sold in a lot of convenience stores. It's sold in some gas stations and online, rather than at dispensaries, which often are regulated by age, right? So, researchers use data from Monitoring the Future, which are these surveys that are done across schools and across the United States and schools. They basically take the temperature of behavior and attitudes about a bunch of different topics. In the sample, more than 2,000 12th grade students said they had used Delta 8 THC in the last year. That's 11.4% of those asked. And even though weed is legal, 30.4% of the participants reported using it, even though weed is not legal for teens. 30% used it. Of the 295 students who reported that they had used Delta 8 in the previous year, 68% used it at least 3 times, 35% at least 10 times, 17% 40 times, and close to 91% of the Delta 8 users also reported using weed. Most of them in the South and Midwest, where marijuana is not legal for adults. So apparently teens are more likely to use Delta 8 and weed, white teens rather, than almost any other race or ethnicity. More boys used it than girls as well. So they say this is a lot of kids that are doing this, right? At least 1 or 2 students in every average-sized high school class may be using Delta 8. And researchers say they just don't know enough about these particular drugs, but they're very accessible to teens. I don't know who's on top of this. Kids should not be able to buy this legally. This is a problem. And maybe it's not as potent as weed or Delta 9, but it's not good either. So is anyone paying attention? I want someone to be paying attention. I wouldn't want my kid doing that. especially when we don't know what's happening with it, what the long-term effects are. No, thank you. Not interested. We need to do something, and we need to do it better. All right. Last thing that I have for you today is this really weird purse that I found. I don't know if I would carry it, but I've got a picture of it, and I want to see what you think. All right? Here it is. It's kind of ethereal in a way, almost. Yeah, it's weird, right? A little strange. It is called the Air Swipe Bag. It's made by a company called Coperni, and it uses NASA-produced silica aerogel that was developed, they say, to catch stardust. Yes, that's right. I don't know, it almost looks squishy in a way, doesn't it? I don't know if I would be carrying it. I mean, it's interesting looking. I don't know if you could fit a lot in there. They say, though, that it can hold a lot of weight. There's another picture of it. I think this is a better picture of it. Yeah. This small bag is made from silica aerogel, the lightest sold material on planet Earth. It has a chemical composition similar to gas, which forms the shell of the bag, while the interior is air. This bag is made of 99% air. Sure, let me pay you a lot of money for air. It means the total volume of the bag consists of only 1% solid material. It's got a dimension of 27 by 16.6 centimeters. It only weighs 35 grams. They make it with a stainless steel mold, and they've got this drying process, which transforms liquid into glass. The bag is delicate but not fragile, they say, and the material can handle pressure of 4,000 times its weight and heat up to 1,200 degrees Celsius. Silica aerogel's properties were first developed by scientist Peter Sue. They say this material, can withstand 3 times the speed of a bullet. That could come in handy. That's why NASA selected this material, they say, to catch stardust, referring to the cells attached to deep space satellites for collecting high-speed space materials. So this purse can withstand a lot of force and a lot of heat. It's got a light blue color because of the nanopores on its surface compared to the sky of the planet. Very ethereal, but it also protects our planet. I don't know about this purse. It's weird. It's a weird purse. I don't know. The Air Swipe bag, they say, represents an in-between space. Here's the space. It's in between science and art. The material is between something that does and something that does not exist. It, too, is in this in-between state, like an angelic state. This is the in-between space of the Coperni bag. You want it? I don't want it. I mean, maybe I want it to protect myself from violence, but it doesn't really look big enough to stop a bullet. I mean, maybe if you put it over your forehead? I don't know. I think it's weird. They don't say how much they're going to charge for it. No. I get it. I bet it's pretty expensive with this material. Interesting, that in-between space thing, in between science and art. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. You know me. I like the weird stuff. Who wants the purse? Anybody want the purse? Anybody interested? I know we have a lot of sciencey kind of people. Oh, $500? Is that? It's weird. Yeah. The purse would look cool while wearing a red Santa Claus hat. She does look like a Santa beard, doesn't it? Yeah. How much is the loss of your dignity? Vilma says, looks like a scam to me, but if people will buy a can of fog, who am I to say who will buy that? Funny. Oh, Flo, thank you. Kim, staying in the theater business was already tough before COVID, and now this, for sure. Theater people struggling to be creative no matter what. City Lights is an excellent company, by the way. Support them. Go to see their show. Go to their fundraiser. Do what you can to keep theater alive in your community. Right? Regarding the purse, sounds like stupid hype. Eric with a good point. You would be able to see what's inside of it. You totally would. I don't think it's like a regular purse. It must be more like a statement piece. Would you really put anything inside of it? I mean, it's made of air and gas, right? I don't know. Yeah. Modern day silly putty. Slap a Prada label on it, I'll think about it. I don't think you want this purse, Heather. I think it looks gooey. She has to wear gloves while she's holding it. I mean, come on. I don't want to wear gloves while I have to touch my purse. I have enough problems. I don't need that too. Should we do a little news on the way out? What do you guys think? Let's do it. All right, let's get rid of the purse. Sayonara purse that I'll never have. There's that other. It is ethereal. I'll give it that. Yeah, it almost looks like a UFO. No thanks. No thank you on that purse.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Update at the San Francisco International Airport, where a large group of pro-Palestinian protesters have shut down now the San Francisco Airport's international terminal. Video shows cars blocking the entrance ramps outside and hundreds of people blocking a gate inside. They are calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. Passengers are being rerouted around the protesters, but massive delays are being expected at San Francisco International Airport. So, if you are headed to the airport or picking someone up at the airport, just be aware that this is happening. As we mentioned earlier, a judge is dismissing some charges against former President Trump in the Georgia election interference case. The judge, Scott McAfee, tossing out counts that accuse Trump and other defendants of solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer. And I will say that David Katz is coming on to the Mark Thompson Show today, where we'll break this down, talk about what exactly these charges mean and why they've been tossed out, and that'll be something not to miss on the Mark Thompson Show today. The prosecution and the defense have rested in their case in the trial of James Crumbley. Prosecutors called 15 witnesses to the stand during the trial, while the defense only called one, and that was James Crumbley's sister, Karen Crumbley. She testified that she and her brother were close. The prosecution showed phone logs showing just 3 phone calls between them in 2021. And of course, James Crumbley is the father of a teenager who opened fire at a school in Michigan. The mother, in this case, tried for the same charges that James Crumbley is being charged for, and she was convicted. These are people who knew their son was having mental health issues and yet gave him a gun for Christmas, and he ended up opening fire at his school. Hunter Biden will not testify in a public hearing before Congress in the impeachment inquiry of his father. His attorneys are declining the House Oversight Committee chairman's invitation to testify at a March 20th hearing, claim the date was set with no prior communication, and he has to be in court in California during that time anyway. I don't know if you saw this story. This is just... it's a heartbreaker, and you feel happy and sad at the same time. Former UFC heavyweight champion and Olympian Mark Coleman is hospitalized following a house fire in Ohio. This fire broke out on Tuesday inside of a home in Fremont, which is southeast of Toledo, Ohio. Coleman's daughter said he rescued his parents from this fire and went back inside to save the family dog named Hammer. He was unable to save that animal, and he was injured while he was back inside the home when the roof came down. He managed to save his parents. Now he is hospitalized with injuries. Such a scary situation. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia would consider the U.S. sending troops to Ukraine as an escalation. On Russian television today, Putin said his country is ready for nuclear war. Putin's comments come just days before the presidential election that will almost certainly give him another 6-year term. That's not a real election, right? NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers is one of 2 names at the tippy top of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s list of possible running mates. Kennedy said he's been speaking with Rodgers pretty continuously for the last month. Former Minnesota governor and professional wrestler Jesse Ventura has also apparently been under consideration by Kennedy as well. Well, that's interesting. The NFL's league year and free agency signing period officially starts this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern. Second day of legal tampering yesterday saw more action, including Houston Texans agreeing to a trade with the Cincinnati Bengals for Joe Mixon. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens agreed to a contract with star running back Derrick Henry. So a lot of movement going on when it comes to the NFL. Musher Dallas Seavey won a record 6th Iditarod dog sled race yesterday. Seavey set the record despite coming in contact with a moose early in the event. He apparently shot and killed the moose, but was deemed not to have not gutted the moose properly, and he received a 2-hour penalty. Seavey was still able to finish the event in first place. A lot of people have a problem with the Iditarod. A lot of history behind that event. But is it kind to animals? Should we still be doing this type of event? Don't know. I think Mark has some pretty strong feelings on that. So we'll talk about that as well. Puberty blockers are being banned for minors under 18 in the United Kingdom now. The country's National Health Service announcing the decision this week, banning them outside of clinical trials. The service says there's just not enough evidence about either how safe they are to take or whether they're clinically effective to justify prescribing them to kids. Puberty blockers are used to delay the effects of puberty, with the treatment sparking protests in the United States already. So, I feel like when you mess around with hormones, that can be dangerous, because we know that oftentimes hormones are related, deficiencies and things that happen with hormones can be related to cancer. And if I had a child that was trans, I'd be really concerned about how to handle that. So I don't know. That's a hard one. Duke University is looking at comedian Jerry Seinfeld as this year's commencement speaker. Many excited over the announcement that the comedian, who's been doing stand-up for about 50 years and had a very popular sitcom, of course, named after him in the 90s, currently streaming on Netflix, will take the podium on May 12th. The president of Duke says he's delighted that Jerry Seinfeld will speak and looks forward to his insights and his wisdom. The Seinfeld's son is a current Duke student, and they're apparently possibly their daughter, Sasha, I think, is an alumna as well. So that'll be a fun. Jerry Seinfeld speaking at your graduation, that's awesome. And that is the news. It's time now almost for the Mark Thompson Show. And again, David Katz will be on the show today, a day early. So let's listen in, because he'll have a lot to say about these charges being dropped in Georgia. I will see you on the Mark Thompson Show. A huge thank you for you being here. Nikki will be back tomorrow, so thank you guys for putting up with me. And a big thank you again to Marilyn, to Louise, to Luis, and to Flo, and even Doug Koch coming in with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much for that, for supporting the show. It really means a lot to me. All right, the Mark Thompson Show is next, followed by the After Party Live. A lot of great stories lined up for you, and it's a Weird News Wednesday, so that's one you don't want to miss. But until then, I'll leave you with my boy, Jake.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You sprout like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You sprout like a beautiful